About 2 years ago in 2018, I reviewed the Oppo Find X, and that was one of the most innovative phones I've seen in a really long time. It had this really cool pop-up camera design, a beautiful full-screen display, and a really nice body. At the time, it was so innovative. It was one of the first phones to hide the selfie camera, and even though it was using a motor and we don't really use those motors anymore, it really got the industry thinking about how we could enable this full-screen display. And it's been almost 2 years since then, so most people have been wondering, where's the Oppo Find X2? Well, this is the Oppo Find X2 Pro, and it's not quite the same type of device as the original Oppo Find X, but so far, I'm really digging it. I've had this phone for about 72 hours, so don't consider this a full review, but I did want to give you my initial impressions of this phone and kind of let you know what it's about. So I should probably get this out of the way pretty quickly. The Oppo Find X2 is absolutely insane with specs. It's running a Snapdragon 865, 12 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of storage, a QHD plus 120 Hz display that gets up to 1200 nits, and it's got 65-watt fast charging. And all of these things add up to a device that's pretty much the epitome of power in smartphones right now. Oppo said that the two biggest focuses for this phone were the screen and the camera designs. And so far, I'd say they really delivered. That QHD plus 120 Hz display is really good. Actually, the first time I took it out of the box, I actually said, whoa, which I don't normally say on a lot of smartphones, especially because Samsung is traditionally the one that's made all of the best panels for its devices. And Oppo's also included this new motion interpolation hardware layer so you can upscale content to 60 FPS or 120 FPS. I'm not really into that because I think that if content was shot at a certain frame rate, it's meant to be that frame rate, but it could be pretty useful for things like games. On the camera side of things, you've got three main shooters on the back of the phone. The main one is an update to that really popular Sony IMX586 from last year, so it's still 48 megapixels, but the sensor is way bigger, and it's actually only a little bit smaller than Samsung's 108 megapixel sensor. And because it's 48 megapixels instead of 108 megapixels, each individual pixel is actually a lot larger than the one on Samsung's camera as well. Now, because Samsung on the S20 Ultra is nona-binning, so it's grouping 9 pixels into one, the effective pixel size is larger on that phone, but if you want to shoot actual 48 megapixel images, that's going to look a lot better probably than the 108 megapixel images out of the S20 Ultra. There are actually a lot of cool new features from this new Sony sensor, and I should probably make a separate video about that. But you've got things like using every single pixel as an autofocus pixel. You've got dual native ISO. There's a lot of new features in this camera sensor, so we'll make sure to make an article and video on that in the future. Besides that, you'll notice that there is a Periscope camera in this phone, just like we saw in the Huawei P30 Pro, the S20 Ultra, and some other phones. And Oppo says that this camera is about 5x optical zoom, but it also does 10x hybrid zoom and up to 60x digital zoom. And I was able to test these cameras a little bit, and overall I'm pretty impressed with what I'm seeing. The 1x, 5x, and 10x are all very good, and the 60x is pretty bad. Just like the S20 Ultra, you probably shouldn't use that full 100x mode or 60x mode in this phone unless you absolutely have to, because it's gonna be really smudgy. Now there's also a wide angle camera on this phone, and I was really surprised at this camera as well. Normally with a wide angle camera, you get quite a bit of distortion in images, but the wide angle camera in the X2 Pro actually didn't show that much distortion at all. And yeah, the screen and camera are obviously the things that Oppo wants to highlight in this phone, but I was actually mostly surprised with the charging speeds out of this thing. Oppo says that you can charge this thing from 0 to 100% in 38 minutes. And after testing this thing for a couple of days, that seems pretty accurate. I put it on the charger this morning at 2%, I had it on there for half an hour, and it was at 90% by the time I took it off the charger. That's 88% in 30 minutes, which is just ridiculous. And finally, the body of this phone is just really nice. Now the Find X2 Pro comes in two materials. You can either get it in this vegan leather or a ceramic, and the standard model you can either get in ceramic or glass. I got the vegan leather edition, and it is really nice. I really appreciate not having to put a case on my phone because I can just carry this around and not worry about it breaking if I drop it on the back of the phone. Obviously, you gotta be a lot more careful with the glass model or the ceramic model, but I really love leather on phones, and this looks really classy. ColorOS has also been improved a ton. When I reviewed the Oppo Find X, probably its biggest downside was how terrible the software was. But Oppo has made a big improvement in ColorOS 7. This particular device is running ColorOS 7.1, and honestly it feels a lot more like Oxygen OS. It's a lot more usable and a lot more friendly to what I'm used to with things like an app drawer. So again, this is just a first impressions video. I don't think that 72 hours is long enough to do a full review of a phone, but I just wanted to give you guys the info as I had it and kind of let you know what I'm thinking right now. So make sure you stay tuned to AndroidAuthority.com and this YouTube channel because of course we're gonna be bringing you more content on the Oppo Find X2 Pro. So until next time, I'll catch you in the next video.